Hello, my name is Steve Jagger. Welcome to the show.
And I'm Mike Foster, and welcome to the year-end wrap-up. We're going to be wrapping up all our favorite stories, a little breaking news, and we have one awesome tool time to wrap up the year with James Woolfenden and the open source tool Pike. Welcome to the show.
This is the end of season 2.
This is the end. Yes, new release coming out next year. Welcome to the show. As always, links in the description. But we're just wrapping up this year. So it's going to be all of our favorite stories. Steve and I actually did something asynchronously. We're like, what stories do you want to bring? What stood out? So we have all our general news, a couple WTFs, our big CVEs of the year, and of course, a great tool time at the end. Kind of funny. We had a little bit of overlap. But
only a little bit, though. That blew my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, only a little bit. But we do have a little bit of breaking news before we get to that story, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I swear I made that sound quieter, and it's still freaking loud. There we go. LastPass got hacked. This is hilarious because it's like I saw a guy I know, Kenichi Shibata, put this on LinkedIn recently, and it just said, "This is the last nail in the coffin for LastPass." I'm like, it's the same. It is the same hack. If you look at it, it's like the one in August we reported was a product of information gained from the first one. Mm-hmm. This is a product of information gained through the August one. It's just like they keep getting information and finding ways to get internal credentials by phishing and then get another like foot in the door. But every single time it's the same outcome, other than there's some names of customers so they can conduct phishing attacks on you. Mm-hmm. But the end result is that I think it's like it says it would take like millions of years to crack, an eon to crack any of the information they got that actually matters.
Oh, if it's all encrypted. Yeah.
Yeah, I got because I use LastPass. I got the direct mail about it, and there's a ton of detail about how they did it and what it is. And yeah, it says it even goes into detail of the encryption method used and the strength of it, and saying like literally if you tried to brute force anything over a 12-character master password, we're talking millions and millions of years.
Yeah.
If you're a moron and your password is love or password, which you're not even allowed to do because they have a minimum 12-character limit, then they're okay. But the reality is, I think in the end, it's just embarrassing. It's not really risky.
Yep.
So, if you're seeing this and you're just like, I'm not going to change off LastPass. I mean,
I was going to say switch to 1Password.
I could switch to 1Password because there's a very good migration path. Not that I've looked into it, but
yep.
There's I kind of like, I don't know if I like the idea of a company that's like been compromised, making everything better than a company that hasn't, wondering if they're secure enough. Maybe that's me
That's a hot take.
biasing. Yeah, it's a heavily biased hot take because I'm lazy and I don't want to change password security
You heard it
provider.
here, straight out of Steve's mouth. Lazy doesn't want to change.
Hey, lazy people create good automation solutions.
All right, I think that's all we have for breaking news, though, right? Kind of a quiet week.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only one that like jumped out at me. So I thought we'd just do that.
And then we figured we'd do 5 of our top stories, general news stories, and then we'll do a couple WTFs, a couple CVEs, but we're going to get into the general news section.
All right.
Yes. We're going to try to keep this light. I think I'm going to go my 5 first, then Steve's going to give his 5, just 'cause it's easier that way for Steve to bring up all of the links.
So they are there. You ready to go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're
We're
fighting it. Yes. So this is my first story, introducing Acorn. I thought Acorn was very, especially because it was the Rancher creators.
Yeah.
They spun out of SUSE, create Acorn with SUSE investment funds to create something that's more developer friendly. And I think you're seeing some, let's say, shifting in the industry. And I think that they're solving a problem. It's just going to be a very fun product or project to follow in the future. So I'm kind of curious to see how much it grows. Remember when we were at KubeCon, the booth was packed with people that were very interested. So
I mean, I think anything that Darren and co do ends up being like very cool and innovative. But on the flip side, it's usually radically insecure or, coded by mega cowboys. So that's another fun side of anything that comes out of them as well. So it's like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And speaking of security, my second one is SixDoor everything. Everything was SixDoor. SixDoor Con, supply chain, Kubernetes signing all of their releases. The SixDoor project has kind of just taken over all the headlines, right? And then you get the actual monetized version, something like ChainGuard that adds more functionality to the project.
ChainGuard has gone freaking crazy this year. Like the Dan Lawrence show on being quoted on every single thing. Like how many articles do we show that should have had nothing to do with that guy? And he's the quoted individual on it. It's like, what the hell? But you're right. This is the first one we ever had on the show in the season. And
I was going to say, funny thing is, who created the SixDoor project? Yeah. Well, it was Red Hat and Google, but more specifically Luke Hines, and I think a few others. And Dan was part of the project early on, but he wasn't the coding guy. But then you talk to people, and everyone's like, "Oh, SixDoor, that's Dan Loring," and you're like, "Wait, what?" It's shocking how much that project has taken over the the wavelengths on LinkedIn. It's story after story, and so you just think, "Oh, SixDoor, oh, it's ChainGuard, oh, it's Dan Loring." And
it is. And then we have to work out. At some point, I'm going to hear him say his name, so I know actually how to say his last name.
Yeah, how do you say it?
I say Lawrence because I think I heard it once, even though I used to say Lawrence because it looks like Lawrence. But I don't know.
Maybe sorry, Dan, if I'm screwing up your name, but you're doing a great job.
Yeah, well done. With your
and then the third one that I had, because it impacted me directly and my environment, was Rogers going down for an entire day.
Yeah.
So for
our show sucked that day.
It was very slow. People were huddled outside of Starbucks to try to get Wi-Fi. So Rogers is one of probably the 3 main telecom providers in Canada, and it was out for a full day. Concerts had to be canceled. They ended up, I think, giving like $15 in credit to everybody that was affected, and people were kind of pissed about that.
How much was that? Because Rogers is felt like almost like a monopoly in Canada.
Yeah, Rogers kind of holds more Western Canada. I think Bell has a bigger hold on Toronto and Eastern Canada. But yes, big outage. It took them a while, and then the excuse was maintenance. Rogers CEO apologizes for massive service outage and blames a maintenance update, which a maintenance update took down your entire network across the country. I'm like, how is your infrastructure set up that happens? Crazy.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I'm not going to comment. That is that's rough. That's like one maybe level above blaming the intern.
Yeah, exactly. And then for my fourth one, it's the layoff brigade. I didn't put a link in for you guys to see, but in general, tech layoffs.
Oh, so you've got like an unwritten fifth item. Oh, you were layoffs? Yeah, because like it started off with Lacework.
Yep.
Dropping, I don't know, it felt like everybody at some point. It was a huge layoff fest, right? And it ended with Aqua losing 10%. And then there was like various companies in the middle that did. I feel like Sneak did that too. Did they have a big layoff round?
Yep, Sneak did. And they also had somewhat lackluster funding round, I believe.
That's my that's my pick. There's a good reason for that.
Yeah,
all right.
There's a bunch of stories there. And then my last one is DDoS. DDoS. I swear it was almost every other week we were talking about the biggest DDoS attack, Google blocks DDoS attack. And we were thinking like, where the hell do all these DDoS attacks come from? And I remember we had a story too about servers in Africa getting hacked, like their AD servers were getting hacked and used for DDoS attacks. So it's everywhere all the time.
Yeah, like I think 3 months in a row we had the biggest DDoS attack ever. We're like, wait, wasn't that last month? 250 billion packets per second or something. I can't remember what the measure is. It's like, what does this one say? This will be 46 million requests per second. There it is. And we're like, oh, wow. And then next month, 250 million requests. Well, that's better. Yeah. And I think it was the last article we had, which was like, here's how we're all coming from, should you want to try and break the record.
The assault lasted 69 minutes. It's very intense language.
Nice.
Yeah, those are my 5. Any thoughts? Anything I missed? I know you're going to get into yours.
Well,
but...
of course, and the my 5. That's the 5
I
missed that are absolutely essential. But I had DDoS. I had like a top 8 written, and then when I saw yours, I was like, oh, good, DDoS is gone. Like we did have some overlap. I just didn't do them, and I did have a layoff. I was debating that one, so that one went as well. Those are more like philosophical. So that I'm glad you got those as well. But I'm gonna geek out. Shall I jump in on mine then?
Yeah, the floor is yours. If I missed anything, chuck it in the comments. I'm kind of curious if there's a story that we missed.
I'd be curious of that.
And this actually goes over a little bit into version 1. So we came out with version 2 in, I believe it was April, May-ish.
Yeah, that's
started
true.
Version 2. So I had to go back to the version 1 links and I looked through that as well. So if we missed anything from early in the year, let us know.
Yeah, I was trying to be the best of 2022 and not necessarily the season, but either way. So I went a little OWASP heavy on my selections for mine because I think some of those things really affect the environment, and they affect, as vendors, they kind of make everyone starts going, oh yeah, well, do I cover the new Kubernetes OWASP top 10? Do you got checks in your check engine checking things for those? And you're like, yeah, do we have those checks? I don't know if we have those checks. So then you end up doing that. And then and I think this is actually, there we go. This is our good friend, Jimmy Mesta, who shows up every single place we go conference wise.
He's everywhere.
I think he's trying to haunt us. So yeah, and I think it was pretty good. The idea of a top 10 specifically for Kubernetes. I know when he first did it, I think he was a little disappointed because it got introduced at the beginning of the year. But certainly by the time we caught up with them at KubeCon NA, it's now a thing. Yeah. People are like, this is it. This is the Kubernetes top 10. I think there was even a little bit of frustration where he's like, I started doing it and nobody helped. Hence,
yeah, that's right. We were at Reinforce then, I think, when we saw him.
Yeah. And he's just like, it's just me then? Okay, here's the top 10. Hope you like it. Don't criticize it. It could have helped.
Yep.
But it's good. It's a good top 10. And then off the back of that, of course, there's no original ideas. Yeah. Now don't want to say supply chain because that's a cliche.
Yeah.
You just hide it and say, oh, it's the CICD security risks. But it's go on.
I was going to say, this is from the company that you guys bought as well, right? Poison Pipeline Execution, PPE.
Yeah. I had two sides to the coin here because this is the guys from Cider.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Omer Gale's research and now colleagues, although it'll be a bazillion years before I ever meet them because that's how we do things here. And then I heckled it a little bit because the idea of a poison pipeline execution is a term I think they invented in one of their blogs as part of a promotion for what their product can do and prevent. So it was a little bit self-serving act of kindness, top 10 CICD security risks. But now that we own Cider, it's like, yeah, this is definitely the top 10 CICD security. We got to do.
Mhm.
Everybody should pay attention, write it down, and make sure that it's all good. So
Mhm.
I still think it's pretty good. I think I don't know how many OWASP top 10s there are in total now.
I was gonna say, out of all you get 2. You can't show another OWASP.
I'm not going to show another OWASP. I'm not going to do. I have 5 different OWASP top 10s that came
Yeah.
out of nowhere in this time.
Mhm. All right, what we got coming up next?
So this is going to really geeky. So this
Ooh.
is this
Yeah.
is.
You have to zoom in a little bit or a lot.
I'm trying. It's over.
Yep.
I'm overcompensating. Yeah, I need some kind of PID loop to figure out how to work my trackpad. This is the executive order, September 14th, enhancing the security of software supply chain through secure software development practices from the federal government. So you better do it. But this was it. This is the freaking mandate thing that happened that now everyone's like SBOM, 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 Cyclone. This is the kind of, this is now become, when the president says SBOM, you're like, really?
Yep.
That's weird. I guess we have to do that now. But yeah, it's changing the game.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious if they care more about SBOMs or they care more about shifting the conversation so that companies care about security.
Oh, that's certainly, yeah.
Right, like, it's because I think there is some issues with the implementation of SBOMs, but the government does a really good job at saying, here's the goal line of where we want you to get in 2 years. And then everyone's like, oh my gosh, we have to get there if we want these contracts, we want this money, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll be like, okay, we'll give you another 2 years. Like, you guys are doing good. You're lowering hacks, you're implementing these specific things, you're spending a lot of time on security. All right, let's give you another 2 years to figure out SBOMs, right? Because I don't think the SBOM issue is going to be figured out next year. But
no,
we're going to be talking about it all year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's achieved its goal, right? I think it's my hot take on it.
I you know what? I'm not going to counter that hot take. I think it's perfectly valid, legitimate hot take, because it's the same. I think maybe if I generalize about compliance standards at all, they come into being, or mandates. The government gets involved when the world is generally sucking at something.
Yep.
And they don't know how to articulate it, and so they go this, and at least it establishes a bare minimum of some sort. So particularly for the government, because they want, I don't know, government contracts.
Yeah. Well, if you already have the bare minimum set, it kind of benefits you too. But that's another conversation for a different day.
Damn right.
Yeah. All right. You have
2 more.
Two more. Yes, that's right. This one was listed there. Go ahead.
So I called out Tetragon because this was, you go through the year and there's certain things that happen and you're like, this was before we even put it on the show. It was I think it was at SecureCon EU when Liz went up to Liz Rice had the, what do you call it? The headliner, the last talk of the SecureCon, and went up and said, hey, here's Cilium. Well, now you know Tetragon. And said, this is how it works, blah, blah, blah. Functionality, eBPF, real-time security, and monitoring. So like kind of like what you see from SysDig, but an execution result like you would see from something like what we do at Palo Alto, or what like Aqua Security would do. And there was a particular slide I remember, which is like saying, these are bad ways of doing things. And it was like this, or agents, or there was a very specific like line that said LD preload, which is like, what does that mean? That there's no way anyone in the audience knew why that would be up there, which is a way of pre-screening any execution of anything inside a container. You can use LD preload to do that, but that's so obscure that you have to know what tool she was referencing with that to know that she was having a real, I call it kicking someone's pants with that one. And it was very specific. Like she called out all the competing projects by a piece of their unique technology on the slide, but didn't mention anyone. It was like, whoa, gauntlet down. So that stuck with me. And since then I've not seen Tetragon gain that much traction, but I still think it's solid, and we're gonna see it next year. So I watch that space.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Last one for my for this fact. Let's see if I find it. Nope. This one.
Yeah, in general, CNCF projects, the graduating ones, but you picked out one of the biggest ones that's been hanging around for forever.
Yeah, Istio used to get a lot of bad rap for not being part of the CNCF, and I think we give service meshes a bad rap just every single show. But this was interesting. That's like, oh right, it's finally in Cloud New Computing Foundation, and I guess you made a comment that CNCF has had some major moves in terms of some of the packages, like last week. Was it last week? It was simultaneously, like
2 weeks ago, Argo and Flux.
Yeah, like they do the same weird. They kind of competing things both graduated. So that was that's pretty cool that happened. And interestingly, I can't believe neither of us put this in here as our WTF, but my backup WTF was the backlash against the CNCF that happened earlier in the year
for Argo.
What's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was David McKay / Flanagan, changed his name, who left the CNCF. Do you remember? He tweeted this like, everyone should leave the CNCF. I'm no longer an ambassador. And we thought for a moment, there's spaces. Maybe we can be ambassadors.
No shot.
If everyone leaves, they're come knocking.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But, we had high hopes for a moment. But that happened. And then there was like a quick tweet from Cheryl hung about like, kind of alluding how badly they treated her while she was there. And it was like, everyone was on like a real hate CNCF thing at the time. And then like now it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Who hates the CNCF? They graduated projects. It's like, wow, that really
changed your tone.
They rode that out and it blew over.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's obviously a little bit of politics with downstream or upstream projects, and it matters if you're graduated. Istio's been hanging around since 2016. I think originally by Google mostly. One of their issues was Google didn't want to hand the reins over because it was originally a technology developed for virtual machines and then adapted to containers. Didn't want to hand the reins over, and so there was a little bit of a hold off because it's been around since 2016 and finally graduated 6 years later.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of politics involved there, but congrats Istio. And also Argo, Flux. I think there was another one that graduated, but big year.
Alrighty. That was we only have one for the other three sections, so if you're watching.
One each. Yes.
One each. So we're good. We're on time. All right. This is yours. Oh, the ad blocker thing came up. Bastards.
That's funny. Steve's like, what's your WTF story? And I said, anal beads. He's like, what? YouTube's gonna block this now. But it's the cheating chess story, because I follow the chess world pretty heavily. And Magnus Carlsen was beat by, I'm blanking on his name, a US grandmaster who's like 19. And Steve, do you have the story? Or you got ad?
I do, but it's like I'm blocking it.
This is another WTF. Look at this. Crazy.
I paused my ad blocker, and yet I reboot, and it only sticks there for a second. But there you go. You can see it, and now talk, and then boom, this comes up.
Okay,
because it sucks.
But yes, rocked by cheating scandal. Magnus Carlsen was trying to get to 2,900 to be the first chess grandmaster ever to do it. Lost to, and I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now.
Let's do this. All right. I'll look it up and you talk.
Okay. So he's lost another grandmaster, and that kind of, I think he was on a 57 game lossless streak, and it was a big loss, and he thought that he was cheating. Now, nothing's ever been proven, but the previous grandmaster had alluded to the fact that he had cheated on chess.com before. Hans Niemann, that's right.
Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so Hans Niemann had cheated because he's younger and everything's online. So there's been a little bit of, let's say, it points to him cheating because his rise on chess.com, his rating is basically unmatched. So they were doing a whole analysis and saying that we think that he's cheated in more games and blah, blah, blah. And so it's just been, it was a huge thing. Carlsen dropped out of a match. He basically showed up to the match, made one move, and then resigned.
Yeah.
And now there's a big lawsuit. It's a $100 million lawsuit, I think, that Neiman served Carlson with.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean, you haven't really got into the whole why it's anal beads.
Oh, yes. Good point. So they were trying to figure out how he could have cheated because, there's been grandmasters where you can go into the bathroom because these are long matches, 5-hour matches, right? So you go into the bathroom, you have a phone, somebody texts you and they give you like the best move in the situation. But he was at the table the whole time. So they're trying to figure out how do you relay an AI stockfish's breakdown to somebody while they're playing. So you need some sort of object, something that vibrates. They do have metal scanners typically when you walk in. And so anyways, the theory was he had vibrating anal beads to tell him what move to make.
That's tech.
Yeah.
High tech. I remember that. And I remember that I immediately thought we can use this to help pass our Kubernetes certification.
Yeah. I just think it's a preposterous theory. Also, like, imagine sitting there and random thought, but sitting there and it's just one time you just like start, you just like, you're like, well, I'm ticklish at the table. Like, there's no way that you're sitting there where like something's like pinging you all the time and you wouldn't react to it. Because they had video of him for 5 hours sitting there, right?
It's completely deadpan. He did have a massive erection. That was a bit of a giveaway. I don't know. It's just loves chess. He loves chess.
He loves chess. Super excited for chess. Yeah. Wow. Oh man, that's a good one. All right, Steve, you got your WTF coming
next. Yes, this is more less ludicrous, I should say. But this is the idea that and you actually threw this one in originally. I really liked it because the idea that China was stockpiling and deploying vulnerabilities because, well, actually, do you want to give your hot take again? Because I think if you missed the show where we talked about this was good.
Yeah, so China basically passed a law where any vulnerabilities that are found in China need to be reported to the local government first and not disclosed publicly or not disclosed to the project. Now you're kind of like, okay, well, why is this useful? Well, if you only have so many hackers and you want to point them towards the best bang for their buck, you hold on to these vulnerabilities. Maybe you wait a year, wait 2 years, see if it's been patched in the code, especially in the open source projects. And then as something gets more and more traction and something hasn't been patched in 2 years, well, then you can go in and be like, okay, well, now we can use this to exploit a lot of devices instead of just going after, like let's say you go after like a 3-point something that affects Samsung devices, but you can't exploit it for gain, right?
Right.
You want to pick the best bang for your buck. And so what they're doing is they're getting a whole database and they're going to look and then go and say, okay, well, this is actually an efficient bug that we want to go after a while. So the government's kind of weaponizing this database. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so it was funny as they put this in 2001 and then in 2021. And then in 2022, there were more, what's the word for anonymous disclosures of security leaks than last year. So more people that saying, hey, here's a bug. And they'll be like, okay, well, where do you live in the US? Like, we'll send you something. Thanks for reporting this. And like nothing. So it's like, there's some people that are still doing their due diligence, but now you can't publicly disclose it. If you're in China, you have to do it anonymously and through a VPN probably and all the other stuff. So I thought it's pretty. That
was interesting. That was really, and it's like, you're like, here's my hot take. I'm like, no, I don't think it's a hot take. That's definitely happening.
Yeah. Also funny to see government bring something in. People figure out a way around. Yeah. Okay. We're going to anonymously disclose things, especially if you're in cybersecurity. It's kind of a
totally
cool thing to see. All right. We got 2 big spenders, 2 CVEs we're going to talk about, and then we're bringing James in.
All right. Let's go.
All right. Yes, these will be quick.
You're first.
I'm first. Okay. My big one was the Broadcom acquisition. Broadcom acquiring VMware. I think it rocked my world a little bit, especially with VMware, Red Hat, SUSE kind of being in the same space. A lot of deals and competition that we hang out and have to deal with VMware. So this was massive. I think it changed a lot of people's market perception. I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but yeah, this is massive. $61 billion.
Yeah, it certainly wins the biggest. I think that we talked about for sure. It was bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's up
There we
there.
go.
Yeah, you had one that I kind of mentioned earlier, but
is it up here? I have. Oh, it looks like it didn't open. So mine was the thing you mentioned. Let me just find the link. I can grab it again. It was Sneak, and that's the one from last week. Was it? We talked about it. Very
yes,
recently, anyway.
They recently got a new round of funding, and I think it was like 200 million. I think if you're pulling it up, I want to say it was 200 million, and we're like, okay, 200 million, and the valuation drops. It used to be like 8 point something billion, or 8 point something billion, and it dropped to 7.4.
So
and
that's
it dropped,
and that's why it's important. Well, so I mean, not to poke fingers, but if you remember our former employer, Stackrocks, they went up, up, down. So they had a down round, and that kind of, you have to shake things up when that happens because there's something funny going on. You need some funding because you get funding when you're running out of money, or you need some extra bits. And if your fundings aren't doing this, it drops your evaluation. So the reason I chose this one is because of all the money that came out this year, this was the most interesting one, because we were seeing like layoffs all over the place, and we had articles that just said cyber has no more money. There was one of those articles.
Yep.
And it was like, wow, so what are these big bloated companies doing? Even if they lay everybody off and they still haven't solved the problem, this is the next thing that you see happen. And I thought, when this came out, I thought, interesting. This summarizes the year to me. Yep. We saw some tiny startups like Apiro get money. We saw some interesting acquisitions, and that was all fine. But this is, to me, this embodied the way this year went. Money went away. Lots of layoffs happened. And the big companies that still needed another round went down.
Yeah. My hot take too is Sneak's looking around and saying, do we want to go public, or do we want to get bought out?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's like, if the valuation's too high, it's like, okay, let's lower the valuation. And also the people who we want to buy in are going to be from companies who we want to buy us out. Like, let's say you're a Google and you buy a Mandiant or something like that. Well, it becomes a lot more, you can go through the acquisition process if I've already invested 10% into the company, right? I'm not actually paying that full amount. And so I don't think Sneak needs the money. I think this is a very strategic move to make it so that they're actually they have an ability to be acquired. Because otherwise if they keep going at this rate, like nobody's gonna be able to buy them.
Yeah, that's true. But they want money. So all right. That's I like
hot take, right?
I like it.
All right. All right, cookie time.
Now, what starts with the letter C?
Yes, now if you were here last year, it was Log4Shell. You're here this year, it is OpenSSL. Hey, that kind of rhymed.
Oh, well done.
I know. Normally not this awake in the morning on Friday. Crazy. Yes, the OpenSSL vulnerability to, I think it was like a 7.8-ish. It was a certificate that could be signed, and it would basically, I don't think there was any like remote code execution.
No.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's funny, like, so I had this in my list, but I had my title, which was it was well, I can't remember the title I gave it, but it was like red herring or something like that, because we all went bonkers thinking, OpenSSL no biggie. That was what I'd called it, because it was the single most distracting vulnerability when they said they were going to announce it next week.
Yeah.
And everyone lost their shit because it's like Heartbleed Part 2 is here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh no, we downgraded it and it's really hard to exploit. And it's like, it's like, oh.
Yeah. It's a good conversation of you're never going to get it right, because the other side of it is, okay, well, we just dropped an upgrade, or an update, didn't tell people, didn't make it a thing. At least it wasn't a 0-day. But yeah, I mean, I think overall it was disclosed fairly well. I think people prepared, show up your configuration, you can go and look for the different components that it's going to be affected for, so you know exactly what to fix and update when it comes out. So there's benefits to that. But yeah, everybody thought it was going to be like a 10.0 massive, 9.8, like remote code execution, blah, blah, blah. Like, no.
Yeah. No, it was, I mean, if you want people to pay attention, they did a really good job of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sure.
Cool.
Yours is titled Miss Jackson If You're Nasty.
Hell yeah.
What was your vulnerability?
Right. That was the one. Well, see, you chose the really serious one, so I'm like, all right, well, I can't do that now. I'm going to choose the one that if you play Rhythm Nation on an old laptop, it blows the whole thing up because of the RPM of the general RPM of the song matches the 5400 RPM of legacy drives.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you play a Rhythm Nation on a 5400 RPM hard drive, it destroys the hard drive. And I'm just like,
so mechanical resonance. Yeah.
Mechanical resonance screws it up. There's stuff I didn't even understand. They're saying like, oh, we didn't even have the volume turned up and it broke the hard drive. Like, what? No. Anyway,
just the frequency. That's cool.
Just the laptop somehow knew Rhythm Nation was on the drive. It just seemed hilarious. So that's like the stupidest vulnerability we had all year. So I had to go there.
Hey, it made the final list. So
made the final list.
Miss Jackson.
Hell yeah.
You're crazy. All right. We've kind of overrun a little bit, but we have a big intro for our special guest in Tool Time.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, recognized and known the world over as the people's champion of the world,
James Woolfenden.
Thanks for the intro, guys.
Anytime. James, how's it going?
Pretty good. Getting ready to shut down for Christmas, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I've already started on the wine. Maybe had a whiskey earlier. I think there'll be more of that shortly.
Oh,
doesn't remember.
Smart. I got to get into that. You guys, you're all ready? Got the neon on the back, little bridge crew sign?
Yeah. I'm old G Bridge crew, obviously. I've been there for 2 years, so I was the only European office for a while.
Only European office. Oh, so you were OG Bridge crew before the acquisition?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And now you're working on a new tool, Pike. Steve.
I've got a couple of tools. The most successful one so far is Pike.
All right. Well, before you get into Pike, what are the other tools? Give them a shout out. I'm kind of curious.
I've got my day job, which is obviously Checkoff, you've heard of, and I've got a new tool called Sato, which is trying to clear the world of CloudFormation and move it into Terraform. And obviously, my main love is Pike.
Yeah, Steve was saying you're one of the largest, was it Terraform contributors?
Yeah, I believe I've got a few modules out there yet.
A few.
What did I say? Second, not to offend, second most prolific in the world. Would that be correct?
I think I'm in the top 3 at one point. I don't know. I'm not looking. I mean, I do it for different reasons. I don't think if you went by usage or by quantity, I've totally got the quantity, but I haven't got the usage.
Okay.
Yeah. So Terraform Olympics, your top 3. You're
yeah. I might walk away with a medal.
Okay. And the newest project, Pike, I think you released pretty recently, right?
I think it first came out in about September,
okay.
But I've been adding to it constantly since then. So.
Yeah, and it's doing real well on GitHub. You want to walk us through it? What was the thought process? Why were you like, hey, we need this tool?
Hold on. You should also do a little intro of who you are. Yeah. Just kind of vibe. The world may not know who you are, James, and we do, obviously, huge fans. But if you could do that for them.
I work with Steve normally. I sometimes go to conferences with you guys. I'm a solutions architect at Palo Alto Networks now, after we got acquired at Bridge Crew. And my day-to-day is helping customers with their security problems, usually using the Bridge Crew platform or things like Checkoff. Cool. I've been doing that for a couple of years. Before that, I was in consulting, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Well said. Yeah. And so now that you've been working on Checkoff, and then you have a couple tools. Okay, so now give us the Pike breakdown. What made you say, hey, we need this tool? What's its use case? What are you trying to fix in the world?
Well, I'm always trying to think of something new to help developers to do stuff. I've managed to acquire the skills to be able to write tools. And so I wanted to start to be able to contribute to tools that I always wished that there were. And so originally how I got into this game was contributing to Checkoff because I needed a tool like that to help me. And so I was trying to think of what other things were real grind when you're an infrastructure developer. And one of the things that you do when you first start off a project is what permissions do I need? And usually what happens is you try out some code and you find out the permission one by one. and it takes you have to do this awful process of, all right, I found the first permission I need, okay, and then you run it again and you find the next one, and this can take ages. And if you're in a lockdown environment, it's really hard. If you're in the corporate world, it's a disaster. You've got to go and then write a ticket to get each permission added, so it's awful. So if I could do something to help that, then great. And so that's what I was trying to solve, and I got the skills to do it, so I started doing it. I had a look around to see if anyone else was doing anything, and there wasn't really anything out there that solved it from a static point of view and in Golang. So I thought I'd give it a go.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I love how you're very modest about the skills you've acquired, but that's awesome. And typically, like if somebody's going through a Terraform workflow, they have all their modules and they're going to go, hey, I want to go create an instance, right? And then it will go and try to do it and then kick back. But if you have a lot of modules you're creating, well, then you could have a couple that work, start creating them, and then you get kicked out towards the end, right? So it's a whole, we have to shut it down again, right?
Total trial and error. You've got, and that's if you can figure it out, right? Because some of the providers don't tell you what permissions you even need, right? And so it's kind of an expert thing to even figure out what permissions are needed. And so what people tend to do is go and give themselves administrator access in a CICD pipeline, which it's not premium solution.
What's wrong with that?
Well, you'll find out eventually, I guess.
Come on, Steve. Zero trust. That's the name of the game. That's crazy. Do you, by the way, do you have anything that you could show? I'm kind of curious because I've never seen it in action.
Yeah, I can show it if you want. Yeah.
We'll put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I can do it. Do I just have to click present?
Yeah, a little present, and then you can share a screen, and it should. We can add you. Yeah. I didn't know if Steve prepped you or not. This is a very impromptu.
No, he didn't prep me, but I know
of course. Yeah.
I said, make sure you've had several mulled wines. It's the only advice I gave.
All right, share screen.
Yes, I have to catch up. It's what is it? 10:43 where I am, and I'm on vacation. So
Can you see my screen at all yet?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right,
you're live.
That's really small, though.
All right. Can you larger on that one? Can you see that all right? Or how do I go now to make the screen bigger for you?
Yeah.
Are you on a Mac? Just go plus.
Command plus.
Command plus, make it big.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, keep going. One more.
All right.
Very cool.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in one of my modules here. And it's up on GitHub. You can download it if you want. And it's just got some IAC on it. Okay, and I have Pike already installed, so 999 because I got the development edition. All right. Okay, so all you have to do for the most basic features is just do scan. And what that's done is created you the Terraform that you need to build this project. Simple as that. Not that complicated. It's just quick. It can output JSON if you want, but most people want Terraform. And then I've got a few other commands in there that do things like automatically deploy it. You can compare it against what you've got in your code and what you've got deployed. You can automatically create the role that you want. You can also then go and give that to a CICD run, or you can go and update GitHub Actions with it, and then I can remotely invoke that with the permissions that you've dynamically generated if you want. That's for AWS, and it also works against GCP and Azure.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm thinking in terms of workflow, let's say you have all the modules you want to create. If you can generate those roles and then send them to the teams and say, hey, I need this to do X. If you've not got the permission locally, you can just send them. You just send them the code. It can output locally to a folder called .pike, and then you just tell them that this is the role I need. But I have to ask, what version 999? Yeah, there's a joke in there somewhere. All my projects, I in the code base, they're labeled 999. All right. So if I know if someone builds them and then tells me they've got a problem with it, I ask them what version they got, and they say 999. I go, well, you built that yourself, didn't you? Oh, nice. That's funny. It's an old school trick, I think. A lot of people would be familiar with it. It's not mine. Yeah. No, that just kind of curious. That's too funny. Steve, I mean, I'm not as much in this world. I think I have to normally shout out Ansible every time I'm on a show next to a Terraform or anything like that. Kind of curious.
Old school Ansible.
Old school Ansible. Yeah, Terraform's the new hot thing.
Well, I don't even think Terraform's the new thing. There's plenty of other new cool things out there.
Yeah, like what are you seeing that's out there?
Oh, there's a new cool tool called Winglang. That's what all the new cool kids are up to.
Okay.
That would have been on the show if we'd been doing a new thing show.
Okay.
I've
I've got to
Winglang.
get a bit hit with it myself. I've only played with it a little bit, but I think their idea is they want to get rid of the local stack problem. So you can deploy locally the same to be able to develop easily locally and against multiple different clouds with their own language. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, no kidding.
It does look pretty cool. Yeah.
And so this is all written in Golang, right? Is it like the Cobra?
It's not Cobra. I think I went with the previous CLI tool, URL, whatever it is.
Okay.
I can show.
Oops, wrong spot. Yeah.
I have to get my environment up, Golang environment up.
By the way, let me make something clear for the viewers out there. When did you kind of start leaning into Golang as a coder?
Well, I got asked to make the Terraform provider for a bridge crew last year in the summer. So yeah, I'm only a recent developer. I've only been developing Golang for about a year.
Yeah, wow. I just thought I'd give that a little bit of shout out because I know when you started.
That was one of the great things about being employed. We were employed by it. I said I didn't have I didn't really have the experience to develop it, and they went, "You're just the best person to do it." Right, okay, and they gave me the time to learn, so that was really great.
There you go. Awesome. All you kids out there who think you can't write code in Golang, even James has learned it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, it's a lot easier than learning something like TypeScript.
Yeah, that's for sure. I hate TypeScript.
Yeah. Any James, anything for the project that you want to give a shout out to? What are you looking to? Do you want to eventually get the CLI brought in somewhere?
I'd really like some feedback. I'd love some feedback. I'd love to know who's using it. I mean, I got 245 stars if you're counting. I am. I'm trying to get 250. I'd like some feedback if people are using it, and I'd love some contributors because what it really needs is more resources. So it's only as good as the amount of resources that it's covering, and I'm covering quite a lot of resources, but they're always the cloud providers are already adding new things, so I can't possibly keep up because it's quite an in-depth job figuring out permissions. So if you want to get stuck in, please get in touch.
Yeah, and I'm going through the GitHub account right now. I posted the GitHub in the chat as always. There are links below, but I've seen like 8 issues here, and you created 6 of them for enhancements. It's like somebody else come and help me out here. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's got the point where I would like to do more with it, but unless someone says it, I'm doing it for my own reasons. And I would rather have real world problems, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So I think as you get more people using the project, then you get more and more feedback. So I think that's partially got to go.
I might not regret this comment.
I was going to say,
it's like, oh shit, James. Here's 100 ways that it's not very good.
Yeah, I think you had in the CLI. It specifically says to email you. I think it's your support email. Yeah,
I always put someone else's, one of my daughter's ex-boyfriends or something. I'll do that.
That's too funny. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, honestly, a pretty cool. So you just released it in September, and 12 forks, 245 stars. I mean, just by yourself, no marketing, no SEO blogs pumping this thing up. That's awesome.
No, I've had some nice people said some nice things in the right places, and every time you see that, you get a bump. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, I haven't got anything close to that in anything else I've done.
Yeah, that's great.
It's good. We talked about it on last week's show, hence the prompt to invite you onto this one. And we have a regular viewer who I don't think is on us right now because usually we get a hello, but that was Geek Masher, and Geek Masher like instantly requested the path to it because we described what it was, and then went got really excited. So
yeah, I mean, I guess everyone who works in this field knows what that problem's like, and if there's a tool out that gets rid of that, then they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so why not be that person? It's just a small tool that does one thing well, but yeah, it's a problem that everybody appreciates.
So what do you do if Terraform reaches out and says, hey, we want to build your functionality into the CLI? What are you thinking?
Go
Real
for it.
small.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious.
Looks good to me, doesn't it? Someone they reached out to me and took my tool and made it part of the product. Yay.
Yeah. Sounds like something AWS would do, but
Yeah, I think they'd do it and not tell you though, wouldn't they?
yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, very cool. Easy to run. So you have all the releases on GitHub too, right? You don't have to build it yourself.
It's all native to GitHub, and I've made it it should be particularly easy to contribute. You don't really have to be a master Golang provider. I've given some instructions on how to do it, and if you don't know, if you want some help, just reach out to me. I'm online everywhere, and I'll happily show you how to do it if you're keen on contributing.
It's awesome here. You got Windows, so with Scoop or with Brew if you're on Mac, like easy install. That's really cool.
Yeah. And all the stuff that I work is cross-platform, so I'm doing my best to make sure that it works on all platforms. So I know not everybody is fortunate enough to work in a Mac platform and with all the total flexibility. Some of us work in very locked down, secure environments, and so you might need some different way of accessing stuff, and I'm happy to accommodate that too if I can.
Very,
Nice.
very cool.
Very good.
So what, time to drink now? I think that's awesome, James.
Yeah, it is time. Yeah, I haven't got one to hand right now. I mean, I could open the fridge below me because I've got a beer fridge down here. So yeah, I'm pretty much cracking into. And then there's the wine collection over there, so I'll be okay.
Very nice. You and Steve with your beers right next to where you work. That's always so dangerous. Look at him go.
No, it's not.
No? Is that the move? I got to move my fridge into the office?
You've got to get yourself a beer fridge. It's just part of the setup at home. Once you've got the light and the microphone and the deck and everything else, you've got to have the beer fridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
No
Steve,
comment.
any last words before we sign off?
No, my last words will be see you with version 3 in 2023. We don't know when we're going to start it yet, but Foster and I are going to be in the same place at the same time soon, and we're going to concoct, your future.
Mm-hmm.
That is it, and have a happy holidays.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks, James. You can
And
go
I hope
drink
to see
now.
you in flesh again sometime soon.
Yes, 100%. And it's a good time to sign off. Happy holidays. We'll see you in the new year, version 3. Mike Foster, and that's Steve Shiger, and that's James. Happy New Year.
Catch you later.